So, for my inquiry research paper, I decided to explore the topic of trying to increase writing motivation, especially within the middle grades. And the reason I chose this topic is because, as a middle school language arts teacher, I find that it's very difficult to motivate my students to write. I know that I'm not the only teacher that has this concern because this is a common concern between many teachers across many different grade levels and content areas. And not only is it a concern for teachers, but it's also an area of reluctance for a lot of students. There's a high percentage of reluctant writers, specifically in the middle grades. And a lot of this is due to students just kind of giving up when they get to the middle grades if they haven't quite grasped the concepts or haven't become successful writers in their previous careers within school. Writing is really connected to a lot of other literacy based skills, reading, comprehension, communication. So it's really important that students have a strong foundation with their writing in order to progress towards some of those other skills. So, writing is important, obviously. I think that's been established. Writing benefits both students and teachers in a variety of ways. So, it can increase 21st century skills, it can increase overall fluency, it can assist with retaining information and building more depth of knowledge within a specific content area. It can also promote critical thinking skills and engage students as well as promote independence within students. And again, it can help also teachers progress monitor students and the progress towards various skills. So, my guiding questions throughout my research project were: why are middle school students so reluctant to write? What is sort of misunderstood about this area of focus? And then, what are some strategies that we as teachers and educators can incorporate to help motivate writing within students? So, my first key issue I wanted to address was student engagement. A lot of times, students are not grasping those literacy or writing skills because they are not interested. If students are not interested, they're not going to be motivated. So, activities within writing need to be very engaging to students in order to increase that motivational aspect. So, one of the ways is to increase student choice, is to give students a choice about what they want to write about, either a topic, or give students a choice as to how they wish to present their writing, as opposed to a traditional writing piece, which is a paper or report. Multimodal writing is a way that students can present the writing information that they have either gathered or brainstormed or collected in various formats, and those formats can be through their choice. A lot of these multimodal writing projects are visual, or they are highly engaging for students, and they also use technology as well. The second key issue I wanted to address was authentic writing. Students are not going to be engaged and they're not going to be interested or invested in their writing if they do not find a personal connection in their writing. Authentic writing is a concept that students are dealing and writing about real world purposes, real world problems, and that they're applicable to their own personal lives. That they see, this is why I'm doing my writing because this will help me in the long run in my personal life. So, modeling authentic writing can be something that teachers can do in order to increase this aspect into incorporate a lot of authentic writing into your classrooms. So, one of the examples that Amy Alexandra Wilson talked about was something called Write Talks. And I thought this was really interesting because they're very similar to book talks that teachers do in their classrooms, where teachers talk about books and preview certain books. But a Write Talk is an opportunity for students to see their peers, their colleagues, respected adults talk about how they are able to use writing in their everyday life. An example of this could be sharing personal writing, like a parent coming in and sharing to students a business report that they wrote, or a parent coming in and sharing something that they had to write for their professional career. It could be a friend or a family member sharing a poem or song lyrics that they wrote. And this is for students to see that real world connection, that writing is something that I'm not just going to do within a classroom. Again, multimodal writing connects into this for students to engage in real life purposes and to engage in how am I going to present the writing and the information that I have gathered. Authentic student collaboration allows for students to get together and discuss their writing with other students, and students can then work together to provide feedback for each other and discuss the topic of writing or provide information and feedback on their own personal writing in regards to editing and revising. Grammar instruction is also important, that students are receiving grammar instruction, because I think this is where a lot of the reluctance from students comes, because they do not feel confident in their grammar skills and therefore are not confident in their writing skills. So authentic grammar instruction includes students receiving grammar instruction instead of from a worksheet or direct instruction. They receive it within the text that they are currently reading or within the text a mentor text that a teacher provides. And students are then able to see how those grammar skills are used and can then apply them into their own writing. Another key issue is access to resources. Mentor texts provide students with not only an engaging introduction and engaging hook to writing to begin a writing prompt, but they can also work as a guideline for students to help drive their writing. For example, in my research, I found there was a group of teachers that decided to use fables to mentor their students' writing, and they were able to read fables, and then students were able to write their own fable because they were very familiar with how a fable was written. They were able to then use that type of organization to help their own writing, which gave students more confidence in their writing because they knew how to organize their paper. Technology plays a big role in this because there's word processing, there's research aspects that go along with providing authentic writing opportunities for students. And technology is also something that is constantly in our world. It's a 21st century skill. We have moved from a time where things were on paper and pencil, and now everything is on a computer or a device of some sort. So it's important that we're engaging students in these writing tasks that incorporate technology to connect them to real world purposes and prepare them for the skills that they use in their everyday life. The fourth key issue is teacher support. A lot of times teachers are very reluctant towards teaching their writing because they're not sure of how to teach writing. And a lot of this stems from providing professional development for teachers so that teachers can feel confident in their writing and the way they're instructing their writing. So providing professional development so teachers can learn strategies, teachers can learn activities that incorporate writing, and teachers can learn ways to better promote writing within their classroom so that students are then becoming more motivated. A literacy coach can play a really strong role in this aspect because literacy coaches can work to provide instruction for teachers, can work within teachers, co-teaching, work with students to help increase that teacher support. Because if teachers are not feeling supported, they're not going to incorporate things that they're not comfortable with in their classroom. And writing is often one of those things that teachers can feel uncomfortable with, especially if it's not within their content area. So some of the recommended practices are to establish a culture of literacy. A culture of literacy is really important because it's a classroom environment where students feel comfortable and they enjoy reading and writing, specifically those two skills. So modeling a writing lifestyle is one of the best ways for teachers to increase motivation and help engage students and provide authentic opportunities. So modeling a lifestyle is becoming teachers as writers. So for teachers to model how they are writers, how they do writing, how they have completed writing prompts to help influence and promote student writing within their classrooms. The same thing goes for reading. Reading and writing are often very strongly connected. So it's important that teachers provide opportunities for students to read and write for pleasure and read and write for choice and for authentic purposes to increase the motivation. Because again, if students are not engaged, if they are not invested, and if teachers are not invested, then the motivational piece will not follow suit. And for my personal application, my biggest goal after completing this research was I want to make sure that I'm establishing a strong culture of literacy, specifically with a focus in writing. I feel like I do a great job of establishing a culture of literacy, reading within my classroom, allowing student choice with reading. But writing is something that I often do not feel very comfortable with incorporating, I think because it takes a lot of time and because I haven't been provided with a lot of the best strategies to influence students. So one of the ways I want to incorporate is me being a writer and modeling time that I write as a writer and modeling the time how I write certain prompts, how I incorporate writing into my everyday life. And then especially making time for writing. Although it might take time, it's important that I start to incorporate this within my own personal practices so that students are able to build and practice those skills.